brother made my life hell. I inherited my parents' wealth, but my brother, disowned for past misdeeds, seeks help. I am now confused and not sure what to do. Hello. Thank you for your continuous support. This means a lot to us. If you enjoy the stories we share, kindly subscribe to this channel. It will be great if you can leave a comment on which city you are watching from. We might just give you a shout out in our next story. Today's special shout out goes to John Francis from Los Angeles, US. We are glad you enjoy our stories. Now let's dive into the details of today's story. The rain was heavy that day, like the sky was crying for something I couldn't feel. I stood under a black umbrella, staring at the two coffins in front of me. Mom and Dad. Just like that. A car crash, the lawyer had said. Quick. Painless. I wanted to feel sad, but all I felt was empty. The kind of empty that sits in your chest and weighs you down, like a rock you can't push away. I looked around. The cemetery was quiet, except for the rain hitting the grass. A few relatives were there. Uncle Mike, Aunt Linda, some cousins I hadn't seen in years. They whispered to each other, their faces soft with pity. I hated that look. Pity. Like I was some broken thing they needed to fix. I wasn't broken. Not yet, anyway. The lawyer, Mr. Grayson, stood next to me. He was a tall man with gray hair and a suit that looked too expensive for a place like this. He cleared his throat and handed me a folder. Alex, he said, his voice low, this is the will. Your parents left everything to you. The house, the business, the money. $5 million. Give or take. I opened the folder and stared at the papers, but the numbers blurred together. That was more money than I'd ever seen in my life. The house was big, too. A mansion, really, with a pool and a garden Mom used to love. And the business, Dad's construction company, was doing well, even after everything. But none of it felt like mine. It felt like theirs. Like they were still here, watching me, waiting for me to mess it up. There's something else, Mr. Grayson said, his voice careful. Your brother, Jordan, he's not in the will. Your parents made that clear. They disowned him 5 years ago, and they didn't change their minds. Jordan, just hearing his name made my stomach twist. I hadn't seen him in 5 years. Not since the day he ruined my life. I closed the folder and looked at Mr. Grayson. Good, I said. He doesn't deserve a penny. Mr. Grayson nodded, but I could tell he didn't like my tone. If you need help with the estate, Alex, let me know. It's a lot to handle. I'll handle it, I said, sharper than I meant to. He gave me a tight smile and walked away, leaving me alone with the coffins and the rain. I stood there for a long time, staring at the graves. I thought about Mom and Dad. They weren't perfect. Dad was always working, always stressed. Mom was quiet, always trying to keep the peace. But they loved us in their own way. At least, they loved me. Jordan, though, they stopped loving him after what he did. And I couldn't blame them. I remembered the day it happened. I was 25, just starting my career. I wanted to be an architect, build things, make something of myself. I had a big project lined up, my first real chance. But Jordan, he was always jealous. He was older, but he acted like a kid, always wanting what I had. He spread lies about me to my boss. Said I stole designs, cheated on deadlines. It wasn't true, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. My boss fired me, and the project went to someone else. I lost everything that day. My job, my reputation, my dreams. Jordan didn't stop there. He got greedy. He started stealing from the family business, cooking the books, hiding money. Dad found out, and it broke him. The stress, the shame, it made him sick. Mom tried to fix it, but she couldn't. They disowned Jordan after that. Kicked him out. Told him never to come back. And he didn't. Not until now. I shook my head, trying to push the memories away. That was the past. Jordan was gone, and I had the money now. I could start over, build a new life, erase him from my story. But the emptiness stayed, like a shadow I couldn't shake. I drove home after the funeral, the rain still falling. The mansion looked the same as always, big, quiet, empty. I walked inside, my footsteps echoing on the marble floor. The furniture was covered in white sheets, like ghosts waiting for someone to come back. I pulled one off the couch and sat down, the folder from Mr. Grayson in my lap. I opened it again, staring at the numbers. It was mine. All mine. I should have felt happy, relieved. But I didn't. I felt angry. Angry at Jordan, at Mom and Dad, at myself. I wanted to do something with the money, something big. Maybe fix up the house, expand the business, take a trip somewhere far away. But every time I thought about it, Jordan's face popped into my head, all desperate and broken, standing in the rain like a lost dog. I hated him. I hated him so much it hurt. I was still sitting there, staring at the folder, when the doorbell rang. It was late, almost midnight. Who would come here now? I got up, my chest tight. I opened the door, and there he was. Jordan. He looked different. Older. Thinner. His hair was messy, and his clothes were dirty, like he hadn't changed in days. His eyes were red, like he'd been crying. He stood there, shivering in the rain, and for a moment, I didn't know what to say. Alex, he said, his voice shaky. I need your help. I stared at him, my mind racing. Help? After everything he'd done? After he ruined my life, broke our family, left us to clean up his mess? He had the nerve to come here, to stand on my doorstep and ask for help? Get out, I said, my voice cold. You're not welcome here. Alex, please, he said, stepping closer. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But I've changed. I've been through hell, and I've got nowhere else to go. I'm broke. I'm losing my place. I need help. You're my brother. Please. I wanted to slam the door in his face. I wanted to yell at him, tell him to go to hell, tell him he deserved everything he got. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the way he looked, so broken, so desperate. Maybe it was the rain, soaking him through, making him shiver. Or maybe it was something else, something I didn't want to admit. I looked at him, and for the first time in years, I saw him. Really saw him. Not the Jordan who lied, who stole, who hurt me, but the Jordan who was my brother, once. The Jordan who used to play catch with me in the backyard, who used to laugh at my stupid jokes. And then I saw something else. A chance to make him pay, to hurt him like he hurt me. Help, I said, my voice quieter now. You want help? He nodded, his eyes wide, hopeful. Yes, please, Alex. I'll do anything. I just need a chance. I stared at him, my mind spinning. I could help him. I could give him a job, a place to stay, a little bit of money. But not because I wanted to help him. Because I wanted to destroy him. I wanted to watch him fail, watch him fall, watch him suffer. And I wanted him to know it was me who did it. Come back tomorrow, I said, my voice steady. We'll talk. He blinked, surprised. Really? You mean it? Yeah, I said, closing the door. I mean it. I leaned against the door, my chest tight. Jordan was back, and I was going to make him pay. But as I stood there, alone in the quiet house, I felt something else. A flicker of doubt. A whisper in the back of my mind. What if I was wrong? What if this wasn't the way? I pushed it away, but it lingered, like a weight I couldn't lift. I couldn't sleep that night. Jordan's face kept popping into my head, all desperate and broken, standing in the rain like a lost dog. I hated him for showing up like that, for making me feel something when I didn't want to feel anything. I wanted to forget him, to move on, to build a new life with the money Mom and Dad left me. But there he was, back in my house, back in my head, like a splinter I couldn't pull out. I got up early, the sun just starting to rise. The mansion was quiet, too quiet. I walked to the kitchen and made coffee, the smell filling the air. I sat at the counter, staring at the folder from Mr. Grayson. It was mine, all mine. But Jordan's voice kept echoing in my ears. I need help. You're my brother. I clenched my fists, trying to push it away. He didn't deserve help. He deserved nothing. I remembered the way he looked last night, shivering in the rain, his eyes red and tired. Part of me wanted to feel sorry for him. Part of me wanted to believe he'd changed, like he said. But then I remembered the lies. The way he told my boss I stole designs, the way he wrecked my career. I remembered the money he took from the business, the stress it put on Dad, the way Mom cried when they kicked him out. No, he hadn't changed. He was just playing me, trying to get something out of me. And I wasn't going to let him win. I finished my coffee and went to the office. It was Dad's old office, on the second floor, with big windows that looked out at the garden. The desk was covered in papers, bills, contracts, plans for the business. I sat down and opened my laptop. I needed to think. I needed a plan. If Jordan wanted help, I'd give him help. But not the kind he wanted. The kind that would hurt him. The kind that would make him pay. I started making notes. First, I'd give him a job at the business, Dad's construction company, and we needed workers. But I wouldn't make it easy for him. I'd give him the worst jobs, the ones nobody wanted. I'd watch him struggle, watch him fail. And when he did, I'd make sure everyone knew it was his fault. I'd tell the board, the employees, the clients. I'd show them who Jordan really was. But that wasn't enough. I needed more. I needed to dig up dirt, find out what he'd been doing these past 5 years. If he was in trouble, I wanted to know. If he owed money, if he'd done something illegal, I wanted proof. I opened a new tab on my laptop and searched for a private investigator. I found one nearby, a guy named Tom Harris. His website said he was good at finding things people didn't want found. Perfect. I called him and set up a meeting for tomorrow. I wanted everything on Jordan, every mistake, every secret. I leaned back in my chair, feeling a little better. I had a plan. I had control. Jordan thought he could come back and get a second chance, but he was wrong. I was going to use him. I was going to make him wish he'd never come back. The doorbell rang at noon, just like I told him. I took a deep breath and went to the door. Jordan was there, looking a little cleaner than last night. He'd changed his clothes, but they were still old and worn. His hair was combed, but his eyes were still tired, still red. He looked nervous, like he wasn't sure what to say. "Alex," he said, his voice quiet. "Thanks for letting me come back. I mean it. I know I don't deserve it, but save it," I said, cutting him off. "Come in. We need to talk." He followed me inside, his footsteps slow. I led him to the living room and sat on the couch. He sat across from me, on the edge of the chair, like he was ready to run. I looked at him, trying to read his face. He looked scared, but I didn't care. I didn't want to care. "You said you need help," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Fine. I'll help you. But there are rules." He nodded, his eyes wide. "Anything, Alex. I'll do whatever you say." "Good," I said. "First, you're going to work for me. At the business. We need workers, and you need a job. But don't expect it to be easy. You'll start at the bottom. No special treatment. You mess up, you're out." "Okay," he said, his voice shaky. "I can do that. I'll work hard, I promise." "Second," I said, leaning forward, "you're going to pay rent. I'll give you a room here, in the basement, but it's not free. You'll pay me every month, out of your salary. If you can't pay, you're out." He swallowed hard, but he nodded. "Okay, that's fair." "And third," I said, looking him straight in the eye, "you're going to stay out of my way. I don't want to hear your excuses. I don't want to hear your apologies. You work, you pay, you leave me alone." "Got it. Got it," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "I'll do it, Alex. I promise." I leaned back, feeling a rush of satisfaction. He was scared. Good. He should be. But then I saw something in his eyes, something I didn't expect. Hope. Like he really believed this was a fresh start. Like he really believed I was helping him. It made me angry, angrier than I thought it would. He didn't deserve hope. He didn't deserve anything. "Your first day is tomorrow," I said, standing up. "Don't be late." He stood up too, nodding quickly. "I won't." "Thanks, Alex. I mean it. You won't regret this." I didn't say anything. I just watched him leave, the door closing behind him. I went back to the office and sat down, my mind racing. He thought this was a second chance. He thought I was helping him. He had no idea. Tomorrow, I'd give him the worst job I could find. Something hard, something dirty, something he'd hate. And when he failed, I'd make sure everyone saw it. I'd make sure they knew who he really was. That night, I met Tom Harris, the private investigator. He was older than I expected, with gray hair and a tired face. We met at a diner downtown, the kind of place with sticky tables and bad coffee. I told him everything: Jordan's lies, his theft, his disownment. I told him I needed proof, something I could use against him. "I'll find it," Tom said, sipping his coffee. "Give me a week. If he's got secrets, I'll dig them up." "Good," I said, handing him a check. "Make it quick." I drove home, feeling lighter. The plan was in motion. Jordan was going to work for me, and I was going to make him fail. Tom was going to find dirt, and I was going to use it. Everything was falling into place. But then I remembered his face, the way he looked at me, full of hope. It made me uneasy, like I was doing something wrong. I pushed it away, but it lingered, like a weight I couldn't lift. Tomorrow was his first day. Tomorrow, I'd start breaking him. And I couldn't wait. Jordan's first day at work was colder than I expected. The air had that sharp bite, the kind that makes your breath fog up. I stood in the parking lot of the construction site, watching the workers unload trucks and carry tools. The business was busy, always moving, always loud. Dad built this place from nothing, and now it was mine. But today, it wasn't about the business. It was about Jordan. It was about making him fail. I saw him pull up in an old beat-up car, the kind that rattles when it moves. He got out, wearing a jacket that looked too thin for the weather. He saw me and waved, a small, nervous wave. I didn't wave back. I just watched him walk over, his steps slow, like he wasn't sure he belonged here. Good. He didn't. Alex, he said, stopping in front of me. I'm here, ready to work. I looked him up and down, taking my time. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept. His eyes were red, and his hands were shaking a little. I wondered if he was nervous or if it was something else. I didn't care. I just wanted him to mess up. You're late, I said, even though he wasn't. 5 minutes. Don't let it happen again. He blinked, surprised. I thought I was on time. My watch says, I don't care what your watch says, I snapped. You're late. End of story. Now follow me. I've got a job for you. He nodded, his face tight. I led him to the back of the site where the worst jobs were. The stuff nobody wanted to do. There was a pile of old lumber, covered in dirt and nails, left over from a project we finished last month. It needed to be sorted, cleaned, and stacked. It was heavy, dirty, and dangerous if you weren't careful. Perfect. See that pile? I said, pointing. You're going to sort it. Pull out the nails, clean off the dirt, stack it over there. And don't mess it up. We need that wood for another project. If you break it, you pay for it. He stared at the pile, his eyes wide. All of it? By myself? Yeah, I said, crossing my arms. By yourself. You said you'd work hard, right? Prove it. He swallowed hard, but he nodded. Okay, I'll do it. Good, I said. Don't expect me to babysit you. Get started. I walked away, leaving him there. I could feel his eyes on me, but I didn't look back. I went to my office, a small trailer near the front of the site. I sat down and watched him through the window. He stood there for a minute, just staring at the pile, like he didn't know where to start. Then he picked up a piece of wood, pulled out a nail, and started cleaning. He was slow, clumsy. I smiled. This was going to be easy. I spent the morning watching him, making notes. He dropped a piece of wood, splintering it. He missed a nail, leaving it sticking out. He stacked the wood unevenly, like it was going to fall over. Every mistake, I wrote down. I wanted proof. Proof that he was useless. Proof that he didn't belong here. By lunch, he was sweating, his hands covered in dirt. I saw him sit down for a minute, catching his breath. I opened the trailer door and yelled, "Get back to work. You're not here to rest." He jumped, startled, and got up. Sorry, Alex. I just needed a second. You don't get seconds, I said. You mess up, you're out. Remember? He nodded, his face red, and went back to work. I closed the door, feeling a rush of satisfaction. He was struggling. Good. Let him struggle. Let him fail. Let everyone see it. That night, I called the board. They were Dad's old friends, the ones who helped run the business. I told them about Jordan, about how he was late, how he broke a piece of wood, how he couldn't stack it right. I exaggerated, just a little. I wanted them to think he was a liability, someone we didn't need. He's a risk, I said, keeping my voice steady. We can't afford mistakes like that. I'll handle it, but I wanted you to know. They listened, and I could tell they weren't happy. One of them, Mr. Carter, said, if he's causing problems, Alex, you need to deal with it. We trust you. I will, I said, hanging up. Perfect. They were on my side. Jordan was already slipping, and I was making sure everyone knew it. A few days later, Aunt Linda called. She was hosting a family dinner, the kind we used to have when Mom and Dad were alive. She said it was to bring us together, to heal. I didn't want to go, but she begged me. Jordan's coming too, she said. He needs family, Alex. You both do. I didn't want to see him, but then I thought about it. A family dinner. Everyone there. A chance to show them who Jordan really was. I smiled. Okay, I said. I'll be there. The dinner was at Aunt Linda's house. A small place with a calm kitchen and pictures on the walls, still and warm. Uncle Mike was there, and so were my cousins, Sarah and Ben. Jordan showed up late, looking nervous. He sat across from me, his hands fidgeting. Aunt Linda tried to make it nice, passing around plates of chicken and potatoes, but the air was thick, like everyone knew something was wrong. I waited until dessert, when everyone was relaxed. Then I stood up, holding my glass. "I want to say something," I said, my voice loud. "Jordan's back. He's working for me now. But I think you all deserve to know who he really is." Jordan's eyes went wide. "Alex, don't. Shut up," I said, cutting him off. "You don't get to talk. They need to know. They need to know how you lied about me, how you ruined my career, how you stole from the business, broke Dad's heart, made Mom cry. You think you can just come back and pretend it didn't happen? You think you can fool them like you fooled me?" The room went quiet. Aunt Linda looked shocked, her hand over her mouth. Uncle Mike stared at Jordan, his face hard. Sarah and Ben looked away, like they didn't want to be there. Jordan just sat there, his face red, his eyes wet. "Alex," Aunt Linda said, her voice soft. "Please, not like this." "Not like what?" I said, turning to her. "You wanted family. This is family. This is who he is. A liar. A thief. A failure." Jordan stood up, his chair scraping the floor. "Alex, I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But I'm trying to change. I'm trying to make it right. Why can't you see that?" "Because you don't get to make it right," I said, stepping closer. "You don't get to come back and act like nothing happened. You want forgiveness? Earn it. But you won't. Because you can't." He stared at me, his eyes full of pain. Then he turned and left, the door slamming behind him. Aunt Linda started crying, and Uncle Mike tried to calm her down. Sarah and Ben just sat there, quiet. I sat down, my chest tight. I did it. I showed them. I hurt him. But it didn't feel as good as I thought it would. The next day, I decided it wasn't enough. I needed to go further. I needed to break him completely. I went to the office and looked at the financial records. I found a small amount missing, about $2,000. I could say he took it, say I caught him. It would be easy. He'd be gone for good. But that night, he came to the house. He stood in the living room, his face red, his voice loud. "Alex, why are you doing this? I know you hate me, but this? Humiliating me in front of everyone? Using the business to hurt me? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with me?" I yelled, stepping closer. "You ruined my life, Jordan. You lied, you stole, you broke our family. And now you want to act like the victim? You don't get to do that." "I know I messed up," he said, his voice breaking. "I know I hurt you. But I was jealous, Alex. Mom and Dad always loved you more. They gave you everything, and I got nothing. I was stupid. I was wrong, but I'm trying to change. Why can't you see that?" "Because I don't believe you," I said, my voice cold. "You're a liar. You always have been. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows it." He stared at me, his eyes wet. Then he left, the door closing quietly. I stood there, my chest tight. I did it. I hurt him. But it didn't feel right. It didn't feel enough. And that scared me. I pushed it away, but it stayed, like a weight pressing down on me. I woke up the next morning with a plan. Jordan had to go. Not just out of the business, not just out of my life, but out of everything. I wanted him gone for good. I wanted him to feel the way I felt when he ruined my career, when he broke our family. I wanted him to hurt. And I knew how to do it. I was going to frame him for stealing from the business. It was risky, but I didn't care. I was done playing nice. I got to the office early, before anyone else. The trailer was quiet, the only sound the hum of the heater. I sat at my desk and opened the financial records on my laptop. I'd found it last night, a small amount of money missing, about $2,000. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Nobody had noticed it yet, just a mistake in the books. But I could make it look like Jordan took it. I could say I caught him, say he was trying to steal again. It would be easy. He had a history. Everyone would believe me. I started working. I changed a few numbers, moved some dates around. I made it look like the money went missing last week, right after Jordan started working. I printed out the records and put them in a folder. Then I wrote a fake email, pretending it was from one of the workers. It said they saw Jordan acting suspicious, going through the office late at night. I sent it to myself, making sure it looked real. I was careful. I had to be. If anyone found out, I'd be in trouble. But I didn't think about that. I just thought about Jordan, about hurting him. I called the police that afternoon. I told them I found evidence of theft, that I caught my brother stealing from the business. They said they'd come by tomorrow to investigate. I hung up, feeling a rush of adrenaline. It was happening. They'd arrest him tomorrow. Tomorrow, he'd be gone. The next day, I waited. Jordan showed up for work, looking tired, like always. I gave him another hard job, cleaning out the storage shed, full of dust and spiders. He didn't complain, just nodded and went to work. I spent the morning watching him, waiting. The clock ticked by, slow and heavy, until noon. The police would be here soon. I wanted to see it happen, to see his face when they took him away. They came at noon, 2 officers in uniforms. I met them at the front of the site, keeping my voice steady. "Thanks for coming," I said. "It's my brother, Jordan. I caught him stealing. I've got proof." They nodded, their faces serious. "We'll need to see the evidence," one of them said. "And we'll need to talk to him." "Of course," I said, handing them the folder. "It's all here. Financial records, an email from a worker who saw him. He's got a history. He stole from the business before, years ago. My parents kicked him out for it." They looked at the folder, flipping through the pages. I watched them, trying to read their faces. They seemed convinced. Good. I led them to the storage shed, where Jordan was working. He was covered in dust, his hands dirty. He looked up when he saw us, his eyes confused. "Jordan," one of the officers said, stepping forward. "We need to talk to you. There's been a report of theft. We're taking you in for questioning." Jordan's eyes went wide. "What? Theft? I didn't steal anything. Alex, what's going on?" "Don't lie," I said, keeping my voice cold. "I caught you. The records don't lie. You took the money. Just admit it." He stared at me, his face pale. "Alex, I didn't do this. You know I didn't. Why are you doing this?" "Save it," I said, turning to the officers. "He's lying. He always does. Take him." They handcuffed him, his hands shaking. He kept looking at me, his eyes wet, like he couldn't believe it. "Alex, please," he said, his voice breaking. "I didn't do this. You know I didn't. I didn't say anything. I just watched them take him away, his head down, his steps slow." The workers stopped to watch, whispering to each other. I saw their faces, confused, worried. I didn't care. I just wanted to see it happen, to see his face when they took him away. But it didn't feel like I thought it would. I went back to the trailer, my chest tight. I sat down, staring at the empty desk. I should have felt good. I should have felt satisfied. But I didn't. I felt empty, like something was missing. I kept seeing his face, the way he looked at me, like I'd betrayed him. But he betrayed me first. He deserved this, right? That afternoon, things started falling apart. One of the workers, Mike, came to the trailer. He was older, one of Dad's best guys. He stood in the doorway, his arms crossed. "Alex," he said, his voice hard. "What's going on? You had Jordan arrested? For stealing?" "Yeah," I said, keeping my voice steady. "He took money. I caught him." Mike frowned. "That doesn't sound right. Jordan's been working hard. I've seen him. He's been trying. And now you're saying he stole? I don't buy it." "He's got a history," I said, standing up. "He stole before. You know that." "Maybe," Mike said, stepping closer. "But this feels off. And the guys are talking. They're not happy. They're saying you're out of line, Alex. You need to fix this." "Fix what?" I snapped. "He's a thief. I did what I had to do." Mike shook his head. "You're the boss, Alex. But if you keep doing stuff like this, you're going to lose us. Think about that." He left, the doors slamming behind him. I sat down, my hands shaking. Lose them? They were my workers. They worked for me. But I saw their faces, the way they looked at me. They didn't trust me. They didn't like me. And that scared me. I pushed it away, but it stayed, like a weight pressing down on me. That night, my wife, Sarah, came home. She'd been staying with her sister for a few days, helping with the kids. She walked into the kitchen, her face tired. "Alex," she said, sitting down, "I heard about Jordan. Aunt Linda called. She's upset. Everyone's upset. What's going on?" "I did what I had to do," I said, avoiding her eyes. "He stole. I caught him. It's done." She stared at me, her eyes narrow. "Alex, I know you hate him. I know he hurt you. But this? Framing him? That's not you. That's not the man I married. I didn't frame him. I lied, my voice sharp. He stole. I have proof. Stop it, she said, standing up. I know you, Alex. I know when you're lying. And this? This is wrong. You're letting hate change you. You're becoming someone I don't recognize. And I'm scared, Alex. I'm scared for you. She left the room, her footsteps loud. I sat there, my chest tight, my hands shaking. She was wrong. I wasn't changing. I was doing what I had to do. But her words, Mike's warning, stayed with me like a knife in my chest. I pushed it away, but it wouldn't leave. The next day, I got a letter. It was from Jordan, written from jail. I didn't want to read it, but I couldn't stop myself. I opened it, my hands shaking. His handwriting was messy, like he was in a hurry. He wrote about how he knew he hurt me, how he regretted it, how he was trying to change. He said he didn't steal, said he knew I framed him. He said he forgave me, even if I didn't forgive him. He said he hoped I'd find peace. I read it again, my eyes burning. Forgave me? He forgave me? After everything he did? I wanted to tear it up, throw it away. But I couldn't. I kept seeing his face, the way he looked at me when they took him away. I kept hearing Sarah's words, Mike's warning. And I kept feeling that shadow, growing darker, growing heavier. I did it. I won. But at what cost? I couldn't stop thinking about Jordan's letter. It sat on the kitchen counter, folded up, but it felt like it was staring at me. His words kept echoing in my head. I forgive you, Alex. I hope you find peace. Forgive me? He had no right to forgive me. He was the one who lied, who stole, who ruined everything. I was just giving him what he deserved. But every time I tried to push it away, it came back, like a song I couldn't stop hearing. I tried to focus on work. The business needed me. The workers were still whispering, still looking at me funny, but I told myself it didn't matter. I was the boss. They'd get over it. Sarah was still upset, too. She barely talked to me, just moved around the house like a ghost. I wanted to fix it, but I didn't know how. I kept telling myself I did the right thing. Jordan was gone. I won, but it didn't feel like winning. It felt like losing. That afternoon, Tom Harris, the private investigator, called. I'd almost forgotten about him. I'd hired him to dig up dirt on Jordan, to find proof of his mistakes. I answered the phone, my chest tight. Tom, I said, keeping my voice steady. What did you find? Alex, he said, his voice low. I've got something, but it's not what you think. You need to see this. Can we meet? Not what I think, I said, frowning. What do you mean? Did you find something on Jordan or not? I did, he said, pausing. But it's bigger than that. It's about your parents, too. Just meet me. I'll explain. My parents? What did they have to do with this? I felt a knot in my stomach, tight and heavy. Fine, I said. The diner. 1 hour. I hung up, my mind racing. What did he mean? Bigger than that. What did my parents have to do with Jordan? I grabbed my keys and drove to the diner, the same place we met before. It was quiet, just a few people at the counter. Tom was already there, sitting in a booth, a folder in front of him. He looked serious, more serious than last time. I sat down, my hands sweaty. Okay, Tom, I said, keeping my voice low. What did you find? What's this about my parents? He pushed the folder across the table. Take a look, he said. I found some stuff on Jordan, like you asked. Old debts, a few run-ins with the law. Nothing big, just small stuff. But then I started digging deeper, and I found something else. Something about your parents' business. It's not good, Alex. I opened the folder, my hands shaking. There were papers, bank statements, emails. I started reading, and my stomach dropped. It was about the business, years ago, before Jordan got kicked out. The numbers didn't add up. There were missing funds, big amounts, way more than Jordan took. And there were emails, from Dad to some guy I didn't know. They talked about hiding money, moving it around, covering up losses. It didn't make sense. Dad was careful, always honest. But this looked like fraud. What is this? I said, my voice loud. What are you saying? That my parents stole from the business? Not exactly, Tom said, leaning forward. Your parents were in trouble, Alex. The business was failing years ago. They hid it, cooked the books, made it look like everything was fine. But it wasn't. And Jordan, he found out. He tried to help, in his own messed up way. He took some money, yeah, but it wasn't just for him. He was trying to cover their tracks, trying to keep the business afloat. It didn't work, and they blamed him for everything. That's why they kicked him out. I stared at him, my head spinning. No, I said, shaking my head. That's not true. Jordan stole. He lied. He ruined everything. Mom and Dad wouldn't do that. They wouldn't lie to me. Alex, Tom said, his voice soft. I'm just showing you what I found. It's all here. The proof. Your parents weren't perfect. They made mistakes, big ones. And Jordan, he wasn't innocent, but he wasn't the only one to blame. You need to know that. I slammed the folder shut, my hands shaking. You're wrong, I said, standing up. This is a lie. You're lying. I'm not, Tom said, looking at me. I'm just doing my job. You wanted the truth. Here it is. I grabbed the folder and left, my chest tight. I drove home, the papers burning a hole in my seat. I didn't want to believe it. I couldn't. Mom and Dad were good. They loved me. They trusted me. They wouldn't lie, wouldn't hide something like this. But the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. The stress, the fights, the way Dad got sick. It wasn't just Jordan. It was them too. I got home and sat in the office, the folder in front of me. I read it again, every word, every number. It was true. They hid money, lied to the board, lied to me. And Jordan, he tried to fix it in his own stupid way. He made it worse, but he wasn't the only one to blame. I felt sick, like the ground was falling out from under me. Everything I thought I knew, everything I believed, it was a lie. I had to see him. I had to talk to him. I drove to the jail, my hands tied on the wheel. It was late, but they let me in. Jordan was in a small room, behind glass. He looked tired, thinner than before. He saw me and sat down, his eyes confused. Alex, he said, picking up the phone. What are you doing here? I stared at him, my throat tight. I wanted to yell, to scream, to tell him I knew everything. But I couldn't. I just looked at him, seeing him for the first time. Not the Jordan who lied, who stole, who hurt me, but the Jordan who was my brother, who tried to help, who failed. And then I saw something else. The pain in his eyes, the same pain I felt. You won, Alex, he said, his voice quiet. You got what you wanted. I'm here. I'm gone. But what did it cost you? What did it cost us? His words hit me like a punch. I wanted to say something, anything, but I couldn't. I just sat there, staring at him, feeling the shadow grow darker, heavier. I left the jail, my thoughts racing, my chest tight. I drove home, but I couldn't go inside. I sat in the car, the folder next to me. I thought about Mom and Dad, about Jordan, about me. I thought about what I did, what I lost. And I thought about Sarah, about Mike, about the workers. They were right. I was changing. I was becoming someone I didn't recognize. And I didn't know how to stop. I went to see my therapist the next day. Her name was Dr. Lee, and she'd helped me before, after Jordan ruined my career. I told her everything, the frame-up, the letter, Tom's report. I told her I didn't know what to do, didn't know who I was anymore. I knew it would take time, maybe a day or two, but I had to do it. Alex, she said, her voice calm, you're angry. You're hurt. And that's okay. But what you're doing, it's not helping. It's hurting you. You need to ask yourself, is this worth it? Is revenge worth losing yourself? I didn't have an answer. I wanted to say yes, to say I was right. But I couldn't. I kept seeing Jordan's face, hearing his words. What did it cost you? I didn't know. But I was starting to find out. And I wasn't sure I liked the answer. I pushed it away, but it lingered, like a weight I couldn't lift. I couldn't sleep that night. Dr. Lee's words kept spinning in my head, like a storm I couldn't escape. Is revenge worth losing yourself? I didn't know. I wanted to say yes, to say I was right, to say Jordan deserved everything I did to him. But I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face, sitting behind that glass, looking at me like I was the one who hurt him. And maybe I was. Maybe I was worse than him. I got up early, the house quiet. Sarah was still asleep, or maybe she was avoiding me. I couldn't blame her. She said I was changing, becoming someone she didn't recognize. I wanted to prove her wrong, but deep down, I knew she was right. I looked in the mirror, and I didn't recognize myself either. My eyes were tired, my face tight. I looked like someone who'd been fighting a war, and maybe I had. But it wasn't with Jordan. It was with myself. I went to the office, but I couldn't focus. The workers were still quiet, still looking at me funny. Mike hadn't talked to me since he warned me, and the others kept their distance. I felt alone, like I was standing on the edge of something, and I didn't know if I'd fall or jump. I kept thinking about Jordan, about the jail, about Tom's report. Mom and Dad lied. Jordan tried to help, in his own messed up way, and I framed him for it. I thought I was right, but now, I didn't know anything. I had to decide. I could keep going, let Jordan stay in jail, let everyone think he stole. It would be easy. I had the proof, the story, the power. I was the boss, the one with the money, the one in control. But it would cost me. It would cost me Sarah, the workers, my own peace. Or I could drop the charges, admit I framed him, tell the truth. It would be hard. I'd lose my reputation, maybe the business, maybe everything. But it might be the right thing. I didn't know what to do, who I was, or if I could fix it, and that scared me. I sat at my desk, staring at the phone. I could call the police, tell them I made a mistake, tell them Jordan didn't steal. But what would happen then? They'd ask questions. They'd find out I lied, find out I framed him. I'd be in trouble, maybe even arrested. And the business, what would happen to it? The board trusted me, but if they found out, they'd turn on me. I'd lose everything I worked for, everything Mom and Dad left me. But if I didn't do it, if I let Jordan stay in jail, I'd lose something else. Something bigger. Myself. I picked up the phone, my hands shaking. I dialed the police station, but I didn't press call. I just sat there, staring at the screen, my chest tight. I wanted to do it. I wanted to fix it. But I was scared. Scared of losing everything. Scared of facing the truth. I put the phone down and leaned back, my head in my hands. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who I was anymore. That afternoon, Sarah came to the office. She walked in, her face tight, like she was ready for a fight. "Alex," she said, sitting down, "we need to talk. I can't keep doing this. I can't keep watching you destroy yourself. You need to fix this. You need to let Jordan go." "I can't," I said, my voice low. "If I do, they'll find out. They'll know I lied. I'll lose everything." "And if you don't," she said, leaning forward, "what will you lose then? Me? The workers? Yourself? Alex, you're better than this. I know you are. But you're letting hate win. You're letting it change you. And I can't stay if you keep going like this." Her words hit me hard, like a punch to the chest. I looked at her, seeing the pain in her eyes, the fear. She was scared for me, scared of me. And that hurt more than anything. I wanted to fix it, wanted to make it right. But I didn't know how. "I don't know what to do," I said, my voice breaking. I thought I was right. I thought he deserved it. But now I don't know. I don't know anything. She reached out, touching my hand. "You do know," she said, her voice soft. "You know what's right. You just have to be brave enough to do it. I believe in you, Alex. But you have to believe in yourself." She left, and I sat there, her words echoing in my head. Brave enough. Was I brave enough? I didn't feel brave. I felt scared, lost, alone. But I knew she was right. I knew what I had to do. I just didn't know if I could do it. That night, I went to the jail again. I had to see him, had to talk to him. I brought Tom's folder, the proof about Mom and Dad. I didn't know why, but I felt like he needed to know. They let me in, and I sat down, the glass between us. Jordan looked up, his face tired, his eyes red. He picked up the phone, his voice quiet. "Alex," he said, "why are you here? You already won. What more do you want?" I stared at him, my throat tight. "I found something," I said, holding up the folder. "About Mom and Dad. About the business. They lied, Jordan. They hid money, cooked the books. You tried to help, didn't you? You took money, but it wasn't just for you. It was for them." He blinked, surprised. "You know," he said, his voice low. "You know about that?" "Yeah," I said, nodding. "Tom found it. I didn't believe him at first, but it's true. They weren't perfect. They made mistakes. And you tried to fix it in your own way. You messed up, but you weren't the only one to blame." He stared at me, his eyes wet. "I tried," he said, his voice breaking. "I was stupid, Alex. I was jealous, angry. I wanted to hurt you, but I also wanted to help them. I thought if I fixed it, they'd love me again. But it didn't work. They kicked me out, and I lost everything." I looked at him, seeing the pain in his eyes, the same pain I felt. "I framed you," I said, my voice quiet. "I lied. I made it look like you stole. I wanted to hurt you, Jordan. I wanted to make you pay. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. He stared at me, his face pale. You framed me, he said, his voice shaking. You did this? You put me here. Yeah, I said, nodding. I did. And I was wrong. I thought I was right, but I wasn't. I hurt you, and I hurt myself. And I don't know how to fix it. He looked at me, his eyes wet, his hands shaking. Alex, he said, his voice quiet, I know I hurt you. I know I messed up. But this is too far. You wanted me to suffer, and I did. But I'm not your redemption story. I forgive you, but I can't fix you. You have to fix yourself. His words hit me hard, like a knife in my chest. I wanted to say something, wanted to make it right. But I couldn't. I just sat there, staring at him, feeling the shadow grow darker, heavier. I left the jail, my thoughts racing. I knew what I had to do. I had to drop the charges. I had to tell the truth. But it would cost me everything. The next day, I called the police. I told them I made a mistake, told them Jordan didn't steal. They asked questions, but I didn't tell them everything. I couldn't. Not yet. They said they'd release him, but they'd keep investigating. I hung up, my hands shaking. I did it. I let him go. But it wasn't over. Jordan came to the house that night. He looked tired, thinner, but free. He stood in the living room, his eyes hard. I'm leaving, he said, his voice quiet. I can't stay here, Alex. I can't be around you. You hurt me, and I hurt you. We're broken, and I need to fix myself. I hope you do, too. He'd been staying in the basement, but now it was empty, like he'd never been there. I nodded, my throat tight. I'm sorry, I said, my voice breaking. I know it doesn't fix it, but I'm sorry. He looked at me, his eyes wet. I know, he said, but it's not enough. Goodbye, Alex. He left, the door closing behind him. I stood there, alone, the house quiet. I did it. I let him go. But it didn't feel like winning. It felt like losing. And I didn't know how to fix it. Jordan was gone. The house felt emptier than ever, like the walls were closing in on me. I stood in the living room, staring at the spot where he'd stood last night, telling me he was leaving. His words kept echoing in my head, like a song I couldn't stop hearing. You hurt me, and I hurt you. We're broken, and I need to fix myself. I hope you do too. I wanted to fix it, to make it right, but I didn't know how or where to start. I sat on the couch, my hands shaking. The folder from Tom was still on the coffee table, the proof about Mom and Dad, about the business, about everything. I didn't want to look at it, but I couldn't throw it away. It was like a weight, holding me down, reminding me of what I did, what they did, what we all did. We were a family, but we were broken, and I didn't know if we could ever be whole again. Sarah came downstairs, her face tired. She looked at me, her eyes soft, but there was still distance there, like she wasn't sure who I was anymore. Alex, she said, sitting next to me, you did the right thing. Letting him go, telling the truth, it was hard, but it was right. But it's not over. You need to figure out what's next. For you, for us. I know, I said, my voice low. But I don't know how. I hurt him, Sarah. I hurt you. I hurt myself. And I don't know how to fix it. She reached out, touching my hand. You start by trying, she said, her voice quiet. You start by being honest, with yourself, with me. You start by letting go of the hate. It's not easy, but it's the only way. I nodded, but it felt heavy, like a promise I wasn't sure I could keep. I wanted to let go, wanted to be better. But the hate was still there, like a shadow I couldn't shake. It wasn't just about Jordan. It was about Mom and Dad, about the lies, about the pain. It was about me, about who I'd become. And I didn't like who I saw in the mirror. The next day, I went to the office. The workers were still quiet, still looking at me funny. Mike came to the trailer, his arms crossed. Alex, he said, his voice hard, the guys are talking. They know about Jordan, about the charges. They're not happy. They're saying you lied, saying you framed him. You need to fix this, or we're done. I know, I said, standing up. I messed up, Mike. I lied. I framed him. And I'm sorry. I dropped the charges, let him go. But I know it's not enough. I need to make it right with you, with everyone. He stared at me, his eyes narrow. Sorry doesn't fix it, he said, stepping closer. You're the boss, Alex. But trust is everything. You broke that. You need to earn it back. or we're gone. He left, and I sat down, my chest tight. He was right. I broke their trust, broke everything. I wanted to fix it, but I didn't know how. I looked at the desk, at the papers, at the business. It was Mom and Dad's legacy, but it was tainted, like everything else. I didn't know if I could save it, didn't know if I deserved to. That afternoon, I made a decision. I called Mr. Grayson, the lawyer. I told him I wanted to donate part of the inheritance, give some of the money away. I didn't need all of it. $5 million was too much, too heavy. I wanted to do something good, something right. I told him to give $1 million to a charity, one that helped people like Jordan, people who needed a second chance. He said he'd handle it, said it was a good idea. But it didn't feel good. It felt like a start, but it wasn't enough. I went home, the house quiet. Sarah was in the kitchen, cooking dinner. I sat at the counter, watching her. I donated some of the money, I said, my voice low. $1 million to a charity. I thought it might help, might make things right. She looked at me, her eyes soft. That's a start, she said, nodding. But it's not just about the money, Alex. It's about you. You need to keep going, keep trying. I'm here, but you need to do the work. I know, I said, looking down. I'm trying. I promise. She smiled, but it was small, like she wasn't sure. I wanted to believe her, wanted to believe myself. But the shadow was still there, still heavy. I didn't know if I could shake it, didn't know if I deserved to. A few days later, I got a call from Aunt Linda. She said she heard from Jordan, said he was okay. She said he called her after he left, told her he was okay, but didn't want to talk to me. He'd moved to a new town, found a job, started over. She said he didn't want to see me. She said he needed time, needed space. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. I understood. I heard him, and he needed to heal. I hoped he would, hoped he'd find peace. But I knew it wouldn't be with me. I thought about him sometimes, wondered where he was, what he was doing. I saw him in my dreams, sitting behind that glass, looking at me with those tired eyes. I saw Mom and Dad, too, their faces disappointed. I wanted to fix it, wanted to make them proud. But I didn't know if I could. The days turned into weeks, and the house stayed quiet. Sarah and I tried to rebuild, tried to talk, tried to heal. It was hard, but we were trying. The workers stayed, but it was different. They didn't trust me like before. I worked to earn it back, to show them I could be better. It was slow, but it was something. I kept going to Dr. Lee, kept talking, kept trying to figure out who I was, who I wanted to be. One night, I went to the mansion, the big empty house. I hadn't been there in weeks, hadn't wanted to face it. But I needed to. I walked inside, my footsteps echoing on the marble floor. The furniture was still covered in white sheets, like ghosts waiting for someone to come back. I pulled one off the couch and sat down, looking around. It was Mom and Dad's house, their legacy. But it was mine now, and I didn't know what to do with it. I thought about everything. The lies, the hate, the pain. I thought about Jordan, about Sarah, about me. I thought about what I did, what I lost. I thought about Dr. Lee's words, about Sarah's hope, about Jordan's goodbye. And I thought about myself, about the shadow, about the cost. I pushed it away, but it lingered, like a weight pressing down on me. I won, I whispered, my voice breaking. But at what price? The room was quiet, the only sound my breathing. I sat there, alone, the house empty, the shadow heavy. I didn't have an answer. But I knew one thing. I had to keep trying. I had to keep going. Because if I didn't, the shadow would win. And I couldn't let it. Well, that's the end of the story. What do you think? Did Alex find peace? Or is that shadow still hanging around? I'd love to hear your take on it. Drop a comment below and let's talk about it. Did this story hit you right in the feels? If it did, hit that like button. It really helps me out. And share it with a friend who'd get lost in a tale like this. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Tap that bell icon so you never miss another story. I've got more coming your way, full of tough choices, family drama, and those big questions we all wrestle with, like what's the real price of revenge, and how do you let it go? Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.